Hi, I'm Ranger Brandy. Welcome to Elk Knob State Park. Elk Knob is in northwestern North Carolina, about 20 minutes north of Boone. Now I'm going to hide behind the camera and let you see some of this magnificent state park. Here, I'm on the backcountry trail at 4,000 feet in elevation, nearly the lowest elevation in the park. It is April 12th, and I want to show you some of our spring ephemerals, the first flowers to pop up in the spring. Ephemeral means fleeting, transitory, existing very briefly. These plants come up, flower, and go to seed quickly to take advantage of the sunlight before the trees leaf out. Our first find is the halberd leaf violet, Viola hestata. The shape of the leaf reminded the namer of a 15th century weapon, the halberd, a spear usually over 6 feet long with an axe attached. The blade is slightly concave, unlike the convex nature of your standard battle axe. Not the most reliable ID feature, as the leaves can vary widely in shape and amount of variegation. That is, the whitish mottling. There is another yellow-flowered violet that also blooms at this time, the round-leafed violet, Viola rotundifolia. Many species of violet have cleistogamous flowers that are closed and self-pollinate underground. They are the backup plan should the above-ground method fail. The purple-flowered species have edible leaves and flowers. High levels of saponins make the yellow and white ones unpalatable. Many spring ephemerals, including violets, use myrmecochory. What is that? Myrmecochory is seed dispersal by ants. Seeds have small, lipid-rich attachments that entice ants to carry them away. Ants eat the elaiosome and toss the seed into a scrap pile where it germinates. This is trout lily, Erythronium americanum. The gray-green mottled leaves are fleshy and hairless and reminded the namer of a trout. There are 2 species in the park, the more common American and the rarer dimpled, referring to where the style attaches to the ovary. The mature capsules of the dimpled species hang lower to the ground than the American species. This plant also uses myrmecochory. Nectar and pollen attract bees. Sharp-lobed Hepatica, anemone acuta of the buttercup family, seen as early as late March, along with spring beauties and cutleaf toothwort, the very first native blooms of spring. Like anemones, the white parts of the flowers are sepals rather than true petals. It is found mainly in the western part of the state. Hepatica means liver and refers to the leaf shape. Iroquois Indians used it with other plants to help shortness of breath in their runners. Here we have cut-leafed toothwort, Cardamine concatenata, in the mustard family. The Greek word cardamon means cress. Concatenata is Latin for joined together, referring to the segmented root. The name toothwort also refers to the shape of the rhizome. The root and leaves are edible and peppery like many plants in the mustard family, but you might try sticking with the more common bitter cress. This plant is eaten by white-footed mice. It is an important nectar source for butterflies and bees, and is a host plant for the falcate orange-tip butterfly. Allium trichocum in the onion family, the magnificent wild leek, or ramps as we like to call them here in the mountains. How did they come to be called ramps? The Old English word for a very similar plant, Allium ursinum in Europe, was hramsa. The Old English pluralization added an N rather than an S to the word, hence Ramson. Then, Scotch-Irish settlers came to the southern Appalachians and saw the near look-alike, Allium trichocum, and called it ramp. There are 2 to 3 smooth hairless leaves with red on the stems. Fascinating fact, one of the native names for this plant is Chickaqua. Back in the day, these grew abundantly along the southern shore of Lake Michigan. Yes, that's right. The mighty city of Chicago is named after an unassuming wild member of the onion family. If anything should be on the Chicago quarter, it's the ramp. I've never been there, but I'd be disappointed if they don't have a museum or restaurant dedicated to this tasty plant. Ramps are slow growing, like cutleaf toothwort and ginseng. If you're impatient like me, you can buy the bulbs from seed companies and plant them in the garden. Sustainably harvest by clipping off one leaf per plant. The leaves are every bit as flavorful as the bulb, and this way the plant will remain to produce again for years to come. Imagine the garlicky tang of pesto on pizza crust or over pasta. This is dwarf ginseng, Panax trifolius, in the Aralia family. It has 3 leaves instead of ginseng's 5, and look, so tiny. Dwarf ginseng has a pungent edible root and inedible yellow berries in June. The seeds are dispersed by birds. It was once used for colic, indigestion, gout, hepatitis, headaches, and shortness of breath, unlike its larger cousin, American ginseng. Uncommon in the South, this plant is more abundant from Pennsylvania up to Maine. Carolina spring beauty, Claytonia caroliniana, is named in honor of John Clayton, an amateur botanist from Virginia. It is pollinated by insects. The edible tubers are small and round, fine eating for mice and chipmunks. The amount of pink on the petals varies. Some flowers are completely white. They form colonies, spreading like a carpet over the ground. Like many plants here in the mountains, spring beauties are slow growing, taking 7 to 10 years to mature. This is the more cold-hardy species. Ironically, the Virginia spring beauty has a stronger presence in the South and can be identified by its more grass-like leaves. This is Bloodroot, Sanguinaria canadensis, in the family Papaveraceae. The thick roots stain orange like turmeric. The unique leaf shape is small, but I have seen some the size of my hand. This plant uses myrmecochory. The single leaf wraps protectively around the flower bud until it grows taller than the leaf and opens for only a few days. It self-pollinates and is toxic. This is wood anemone, Anemone quinquifolia, in the buttercup family. In ancient times, this flower was feared to bring illness just by breathing near them. And we foolish descendants rush up to take photos of them. Anemone means windflower, or daughter of the wind, referring to the delicate flowers being blown open by the wind. The flowers are not petals, but petal-like sepals. Sepals are modified leaves that protect the flower bud. This plant uses myrmecochory. The pollen is dry, light, and dispersed by wind. This is ill-scented Trillium, Trillium erectum, also called wake robin, though I find the robins arrive in this area, at least, well before these plants bloom. The ill scent is produced to attract flies for pollination. This plant uses myrmecochory. There are 2 other species that grow in this area, blooming slightly later: large-flowered Trillium, with white flowers that fade to pink, and the uncommon painted Trillium, white with pink centers and darker leaves. Dutchman's breeches, Dicentra cucullaria, is also in the buttercup family. The delicate ferny leaves are densely packed. I have seen ground-nesting birds build their nest in the midst of a clump of these leaves. Bees pollinate the flowers that, as you can see, look like upside-down pairs of pants. This plant uses myrmecochory. Ah, who needs flowers with leaves like these? The ever-distinctive waterleaf. Most likely the Virginia waterleaf, Hydrophyllum virginianum, that will bloom in June. Thanks for joining me on a backcountry tour of our spring ephemerals. This is just a sample of the many wonderful wildflowers here at Elk Knob. I hope you get a chance to come out and explore for yourself. Happy trails!